Hello, I'm Charles Kovess, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Kovess Show, episode 167. Whether you're watching on YouTube or on Rumble or listening via one of the many podcast possibilities. In this week's episode, I explain why love expands you and fear depresses you. If you suffer from depression, it is likely that you have allowed fear to guide your actions. But if you seek truth and speak truth, it sets you free. And when you are free, you are able to grow, to get better, to expand. Overcoming fear of the truth is a crucial step to your freedom. Overcoming fear is a crucial step to expanding individual and team performance. I share 7 examples in sport, business, and life of the ways in which truth sets you free, so that you are inspired to ensure that your actions are motivated by love and not by fear. Drive out fear and become the amazing man, the amazing woman that you are designed to be. This episode will inspire you to choose the path that expands you and to avoid the path to depression, to reduction, to minimisation. Our format for the show is that I share today's big idea with you. I share 6 resources to help you implement the big idea. I cover some key happenings during the course of the week, and then for newer viewers and listeners, I cover the foundational principles for the show and my background in the last part, so that regular viewers and listeners don't have to go through that each week. So let's expand today's big idea. Today's episode is inspired by 2 sources. One, I moderate 2 global meetings a week of doctors and scientists, and sometimes I report on those activities. And in my introductory statement to those meetings, I say that the group discussion is driven by love and not fear. And then secondly, yesterday, the day after I'm recording this, I attended with Julie an investiture of Knights of the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, Knights Hospitaller. And it was an investiture held in a Catholic church led by an amazing Catholic priest, Father Victor Ferrugia, who spoke so eloquently about love. So here I am speaking about love, not fear, twice a week. And then at this investiture, Father Ferrugia speaks so beautifully about love. So I thought you better hear some more about love and its opposite, which is fear. You are never static. You are never stationary. You, as a human being, as a man or a woman, are either expanding or shrinking. You are growing like a plant or shriveling up. You are expanding or you are becoming depressed, being squashed, a depressing of you. You can't just be in this space of static. And then in John, in the Bible, chapter 8, verse 32, there's a beautiful line: the truth will set you free. And I have found that to be true. Why is it true? Because learning what is true, seeking what is true, and speaking what is true only happens if fear does not stop you. Fear stops many people from seeking and speaking truth. I have found that individuals, my performance, other people I've coached, teams that I've worked with, only improve if they are expanding their capabilities, if they are expanding their knowledge, if they're expanding their wisdom. But Western culture is imposing fear. Western culture is a fear porn environment. Governments are constantly wanting you to be fearful. Why? Why on earth would this be happening? If you speak truth, you are likely to get into trouble. The woke industry is all about getting into trouble. Political correctness is all about getting into trouble for speaking the truth. There's a deliberate plan afoot to make you scared, to make you frightened. And today's book that I'm recommending to you is by an excellent thinking expert on education in Australia, Dr. Kevin Donnelly. And the book is A Politically Correct Dictionary and Guide. And so why is it unsafe to speak the truth? Well, that's what this book is about. And John Howard, former Australian Prime Minister, he says Kevin Donnelly has frequently railed against the dangers of political correctness. This work commendably highlights its stultifying effect on plain speaking. Just think about that. Western culture is censoring plain speaking, all in the name of BS ideas like diversity, like inclusivity, like never taking the risk of offending somebody. Chris Mitchell, a well-known high-level editor of mainstream media, he says Kevin Donnelly is the best thinker and writer in Australia on issues of education and how political correctness is enforcing group think and destroying the language. There's some of the reasons. There's another reason why government is using fear porn, and that's to make you less capable. That's to make you more reliant on government. I say that's a shocking course of action. That's a shocking road to take. So let me give you 7 examples in sport and business and life where remarkable improvements came about when truth is spoken, when truth is sought, and where fear is ignored. Number 1, I worked with one of the senior leaders in one of Australia's major banks for some years. And what we worked on together was to be willing to face the truth. So he is a leader with his significant team, which ended up being the best performing team in this major bank. He was willing to hear the truth. He wasn't scared of hearing the truth. And the work that I did with him constantly gave him the support and the understanding that said, if people are driven by fear, there's no way they can perform at anything like their amazing capability. Second example, I worked with the Brisbane Lions, an AFL team, in 1999 and 2000. And I created an environment where the players were able to speak more truth to each other, of more honestly sharing what motivated them. And it's now history that in 2001 and 2002 and 2003, that team won 3 premierships, and this year it's into the last 4 and may well win this year's premiership. Its coach, Chris Fagan, is renowned for creating a safe space where players can speak truth. Third example, I worked with the West Tigers in the National Rugby League in 2003 and 2004, and it won the premiership, the only premiership it's ever won, under its coach, Tim Sheens. And we did a similar exercise there where the players gained a deeper understanding by speaking truth of what actually was important to them and who they actually were. And at the end of that 2004 premiership, and I will explore this at the end of this year's premierships for both the AFL and the NRL, the depth of connection of players because they were dealing in truth in relation to each other was extraordinary. Fourth example of the truth setting you free so that you are not driven by fear but by love. And that is in the case of couples that should not be together anymore, that should be divorced. Now, I've been successfully married 3 times. Many of you know that. But if you are trapped in a relationship where you are scared to speak the truth, then the fear squashes you and you are trapped in this relationship. And I want you to understand, if you were coming from love, what would you be doing in this relationship? And if you loved that person if you truly came from love, not this feeling of love, but it's quite an interesting question of, do parties love each other, not love each other? If they no longer love each other, why are they remaining in a relationship? And speaking the truth in those circumstances sets you free. And often, it's proven, can reignite the love that might be headed on the way out. The fifth example is the case in business of whistleblowers who speak the truth about what's going on in an organization. And it's because those whistleblowers come from love, because they can tell that the hidden issues are squashing people who love the business from being able to give their passion, to give all they're capable of giving, because it's unsafe to give it. So whistleblowers speak up. Of course, there's a price to pay for being a whistleblower, just like there's a price to pay for staying silent through fear. I hope I'm really reinforcing to you the price that you pay if you squash your truth. If you squash the truth of what might be happening in an organization that the leaders don't know. I've worked with numerous companies where leaders think that good things are happening, but in the bowels of the organization, the middle depths, people, mid-level managers are treating people below them in very bad ways, and those people are scared to speak up. Example number 6, which spins off from example number 5 in business, is what I call bludgers in the workplace. So there are people, and I'm going to have a bit of a bludge now by having a bit of coffee. There are people who cheat the system. I'm not talking now about whistleblowers, but I am talking about bad management where people are not properly monitored to see if they're cheating the system in terms of being bludgers, in terms of not doing their work, in terms of finding every excuse they can for not doing work. And then what that does is to kill the spirit of those who love the business, who love their own expansion, who want to make a contribution, but the observation of bludgers getting away with poor performance kills their own spirit. And so speaking the truth about such behaviours, and it also happens in sporting teams, but in business teams, what it does is literally it's like a mental laxative. And I describe myself in a passion provocateur as a mental laxative. But you speak the truth, and it might create a lot of disharmony. It might cause a huge explosion, but that's what's needed if the business is going to improve. And then there's the antithesis of the bludgers in the workplace syndrome, and this shows you the complexity of the human condition, where you might think that someone is a bludger, someone is cheating the system, because that person is getting ready at 5 minutes to 5 to leave on the dot at 5 p.m. And that might frustrate you. You might go, that person's got no commitment, not showing any interest in the business, and it's upsetting you. You speak the truth. You have a team meeting, and this is what I do. I facilitate team conversations. You have a team conversation, and you express your truth. You speak your truth because you love the business. You want the business to grow and expand and be successful, and you speak the truth and you say, I'm frustrated. This person always is getting ready to leave at 5 minutes to 5 so that he or she can walk out the door at 5 p.m. and you've spoken the truth. It takes courage to speak that truth. And then the person who's accused of not being committed says, and this changes everything, says, I have to leave. Thank you for speaking the truth. I have to leave at 5 p.m. because I have to catch a train at 7 minutes past 5. And there's only a train every half hour because I have to pick up my children from childcare before 6 p.m. If I don't do that, then the penalty on me is huge. And then suddenly the resentment of the person who spoke up, who was willing to speak the truth, dissipates because the truth was spoken, understanding has been created, and suddenly compassion appears. And then people are helping this person to make sure that she or he can collect children before the deadline of when they have to. The truth does indeed set us free. Do you want to improve? Do you want your business to improve? Do you want any team that you're a part of to improve? Choose love, not fear. Choose to come from a loving perspective. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. Take the risk of speaking the truth. Access your passion from your heart, your soul, your spirit. And that's the source of your courage to overcome the fear which governments want you to have, which many leaders want you to have. Speak the truth. It will set you free. You will become the amazing person, even more of the amazing person that you are capable of being. So let me share some resources for you to use, 6 resources to use in applying this idea of choosing love, not fear, and expanding, not being depressed. The book I've already mentioned is by Kevin Donnelly, A Politically Correct Dictionary and Guide. I wish I had time to go through some of these definitions. Kevin Donnelly is wonderful, readily available, this book. My song. Can you guess what my song will be when we're talking about love, not fear? Yes, you're right. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love, love. Love is all you need. Beatles, of course. All you need is love is the song, and there's some beautiful, beautiful lyrics. There's nothing you can know that isn't known, nothing you can see that isn't shown. There's nowhere you can be that isn't where you're meant to be. It's easy. All you need is love. Get that mantra running in your life. All you need is love. Don't let fear dominate it. My health tip. I've been horrified by what's happening in hospitals around the world. I haven't got time to expand on this, but what I urge you to do is to create your health solution community. One way to do that is to become a member of WOW International. Its website is wowintl.org. I urge you to create your alternative health community to deal with all of your health problems without having to go as the absolute last resort of going to a hospital. My spiritual tip is to reflect in a quiet meditative time of when in your life you chose to come from love, not fear. And the best way to do that is, when did you choose to overcome fear and speak truth? Just reflect, go back in your life and reflect, when did you do that? And explore the consequences that you had to then rejuvenate your commitment to speaking truth so that you are free to expand. My quote, Fear, I often use the acronym FEAR, and it means certain things. It has two meanings, FEAR. Forget everything and run. That's the negative one. Forget everything and run. Or face everything and rise. Isn't that beautiful? Face everything and rise. And since we're talking about love versus fear, love expanding you, fear contracting you, we better have some humor about love. So some psychologists did an exercise on interviewing 4 to 8-year-olds of what love means. So here's some reminders for you. Love is when a girl puts on perfume and a boy puts on shaving cologne and they go out and smell each other. Love is what makes you smile when you're tired. Love is when my mummy makes coffee for my daddy and she takes a sip before giving it to him to make sure the taste is okay. Love is what's in the room with you at Christmas if you stop opening presents and listen. If you want to learn to love better, you should start with a friend who you hate. Love is when mummy sees daddy smelly and sweaty and still says he's handsomer than Robert Redford. Love is when your puppy licks your face even after you've left him alone all day. How about that for true love? Dogs, hey? You leave them alone all day and as soon as you see them, they're not resentful. Love is when your puppy licks your face even after you've left him alone all day. I know my older sister loves me because she gives me all her old clothes and has to go out and buy new ones. I love that second-hand rose, Barbara Streisand. Remember that famous song? And then, this is not so much from young people, but here's another one. A lot of people wonder how you know if you're really in love. Just ask yourself this question. Would I mind being destroyed financially by this person? Do you love that? Would I mind being destroyed financially by this person? There's a good test for love, isn't it? So, use these resources to help you go deeply into this idea. This is a big idea today. Love versus fear. This will make such a beneficial difference to your life. My aim for this show is to provoke you, to inspire you, to motivate you, to choose the path that is going to enable you to live life on your terms, as my dad did, as I discussed in one of the last week's episode, I think, but to understand what's going to make your life one that you are proud of, that you are every morning when you wake up inspired. What's your self-awareness about who you truly are? I invite you to subscribe to this show, to the podcast, to the YouTube channel, to the Rumble channel, and to share this if you like it with your family, your friends, and your work colleagues. You can discover more about the self-awareness and passion quest at charlescovess.com, and then corporate and public programs can be found at covess.com. My books, Passionate People Produce, and Passionate Performance, are available at both of those websites. Now, we're running tight on time, so there's a couple of things I want to review of what's happened in the past week. My TNT radio program on Saturday, the 16th of September, had a wonderful guest, Jason Christoph, an expert in mind control and in self-sabotage. Wonderful, wonderful interview about how governments are playing psychological operations on us to then control our behaviours. Well worth listening to. In Australia, the government is driving the referendum to change our constitution with a voice, about giving voice to Aborigines. I implacably oppose it. It is a fear porn exercise. The wishy-washy words that are being used to justify this outrageous change to our constitution must be opposed, in my view, and I oppose it. And Jacinta Price, the wonderful senator in the Australian Parliament, and Warren Mundine are beautifully articulating why this is not only unnecessary but counterproductive. It will create racism in this country. Division within this country must be opposed. And the other comment I want to make is on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. I hear people of good intent say, let's support the Ukrainians against the Russians. I say to you, and I've listened to many geopolitical experts on this, to say that Ukraine good, Russia bad is puerile in the extreme. When you understand that governments, particularly in the West, are aiming to confuse you, you will not be confused. There is deep complexity in the Ukraine-Russia situation, as there is in most situations. Government wants you to be confused, because if you're confused, you will let government do what it wants. When you know that deliberate confusion is the goal, you will no longer be confused. So I've done a fair bit of work on this issue. Nothing is black and white in relation to Ukraine and Russia. So, if you're new to the show, stick around, because I'll cover the foundational principles and my background in the last part of the show. And for the rest of you, regular viewers and listeners, thanks for being with us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I wish you a wonderful week of ever-expanding love, ever-reducing fear, and a greater willingness for you to speak the truth, and particularly to speak the truth to yourself. Have a great week. Embrace the challenges, and we'll be back with you next week. Bye. And now, for viewers and listeners who want to know more about my background and what else I do with my life, as well as the foundational principles of the show, here we are. Since 1993, when I left my legal career, a career that I love, to become Australasia's passion provocateur, I have inspired and provoked and educated and motivated people all over the world to discover and pursue their passion. I have helped people via the books that I've written, via speeches at conferences, via in-depth team building programs, workshops over 1, 2 or 3 days, or over 3 months, 6 months. And I've coached people of all ages, one-on-one, from small, medium and large enterprises, government enterprises, helping them to identify the often tiny changes that can make a massive difference. One of my core principles is that freedom is what makes us truly human. That's why one of the greatest threats that government imposes on you to force you to observe its laws is the threat of imprisonment, the loss of your freedom. Just think about that. Government says, if you don't behave yourself, we're going to put you in jail. No, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to lose my freedom. That's a reminder to you of why freedom is so important. Without freedom, you and I are not much different to animals. If you were locked up in a cage for the rest of your life, how different would you be to an animal? This commitment to fighting for freedoms for all people is carried out by me primarily through 5 channels. Number 1, preserving the freedom to pursue your passion. Number 2, inspiring you to be able to be free through excellent health. Number 3, helping preserve freedom throughout the world through the expansion of industrial hemp, a magnificent agricultural crop, an almost miraculous crop that enables every community to thrive independently of government. In this way, the power of government to take away freedom is minimized. Number 4, fighting for freedom through legal strategies. So I do work as a legal strategy consultant, as an interface between clients and their lawyers. And number 5, as chairman of the Australian Institute of Comedy and as a board member of the Australian Cartoon Museum, fighting for the freedom of thought and speech through uncensored comedy and humour, through avoiding political correctness in the comedic space. When you block freedom of speech, freedom of thought, that's the beginning of the end of your freedoms. The foundational principles for the Charles Covest Show are founded on the formula SA plus P equals S. Your self-awareness added to your passion will guarantee that you are successful. And the best definition of success I have found in life is that success is the progressive realization of your worthy ideals. The progressive realization of your worthy ideals. This show is also guided by Socrates' famous principle and quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living." You can see I'm wearing my red jacket. I wear my red jacket for all my shows. Red is the colour of passion, so that when you see me on the YouTube version, it reminds you that when you see red in your life, you ask yourself the question, am I pursuing my passion? What am I passionate about? Am I still passionate about that? What might I newly be passionate about? Each week I explore one big idea that can change your life. And it's just one big idea because there's a chance you will remember it. If I give you too many ideas, then we get confused and we don't do anything. Clarity leads to power. Confusion kills passion. Each week I share simple and practical resources that you've heard me describe in the earlier part of the show. A spiritual tip, a health tip, lyrics of a song, a book, a quote, and of course humour. This show is not politically correct. I have no intention of being politically correct. And I love certain addictions, including my addiction to great coffee, my addiction to exercise, my addiction to reading, and my addiction to certain other unmentionable in public type behaviours. Who would know what they are? This show definitely subscribes to the view that we have a spiritual life. So if you don't like discussion of spirituality, this show is not for you. I promise you that I don't include anything in this show that I don't consider to be true and that I have not found to be useful in the work that I've done over the past 28 years, but also over the past 50 years in business, as a lawyer, as a consultant advisor. I only want to share stuff with you that is of value to you. Finally, if you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to contact me at charles@covest.com. Again, thanks for watching and listening to my show. Bye.